There is one thing that people of all religions desire, people of all occupations seek, and for which people of all nationalities wish. It crosses political party lines and social caste systems. Every man, woman, and child earnestly desires to have good health. Yet there is a vast diversity of opinion when it comes to deciding which potential method of healing is actually the best. Today, in bookstores, videos, and even mainstream medicine, what is often termed alternative medicine is becoming more and more popular. Even many of those who claim to follow only methods that can be proved by science are beginning to use some of these practices. Branches of medicine once considered witchcraft are becoming accepted by Western medicine and alternative medicine as science.
Watching voodoo. Here, Priestess Jones says she's pulling out someone's negative energy and shaking it away. I'm struck by how similar it is to what's being done right now in mainstream American hospitals. It's called therapeutic touch, and it's practiced in hundreds of medical centers, even during surgery.
Medical coverage now on Eyewitness News. More and more Americans are turning to so-called complementary and alternative medicine to treat various conditions. A new government report says 38 million adults visited chiropractors, acupuncturists, and other specialists in 2007. Spending nearly $34 billion, experts urge patients to vigorously research alternative medicine therapies and products to make sure that they are safe.
And I want you to keep your eyes focused on a spot within your line of sight.
This group of students at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences is learning how to hypnotize people.
More and more relaxed.
The hope that it can be used to treat members of the military dealing with the wounds of battle, both physically and mentally. The hypnosis class is part of a broader movement at the military medical school that's teaching students about alternative or complementary medicine, techniques that can be used to both treat their patients and for self-care. Other techniques in the curriculum include chiropractic care, acupuncture, meditation, and yoga.
Welcome to Human Interest Today. I'm Sitara Maroof. The use of herbal medicines and unconventional therapies by a growing number of patients has made a significant impact on the medical establishment. How significant? We'll take a look.
My heartbeat is calm and strong.
You may think this is taking place at a holistic center, but these are first-year medical students at Georgetown University's medical school. The school is revising its curriculum to integrate information about complementary and alternative medicine in all its courses.
My body balances itself perfectly.
And so the tack that we took here at Georgetown was to determine what aspects of complementary and alternative medicine belonged in the science courses, which of the material belonged in our clinical courses, and which is most appropriately in some of our bridge courses, like Introduction to Healthcare, where they learn about practices.
Last July, the school received a $1.7 million federal grant for education about alternative medicine. Officials say the initiative at the school indicates the changing nature of healthcare in this country, and the fact that a growing number of professionals in the field recognize that healthcare is a team effort.
In some ways, what this initiative is about building bridges. It's about building bridges between the conventional medical establishment and other practices, other healthcare professions that in years past were perhaps outside the mainstream, but are slowly becoming part of the mainstream.
Professor Michael Lumpkin is the chair of the physiology department. He's covering the elements of biofeedback in his endocrinology class.
What's different about what we do here is that it's not elective, that it's part and parcel of the curriculum, that the initiative over the next 5 years is to really incorporate things all through the 4 years, not as a peripheral elective.
The American Association of Medical Colleges reports that more than 90 of the 125 medical schools in the U.S. include some complementary and alternative medicine.
Many sincere people searching for health are being led into false paths. But we do not need to follow on blindly as if life were controlled by mere chance rather than by definite and unvarying laws. If you drop a piggy bank, the law of gravity states that it will fall down and break. No one questions the fact that fire always burns. In fact, the laws of nature are so predictable that after years of experimentation, we can even predict certain chemical changes down to the very second.
This time, the iodine will be in the form of iodic acid, I2O5. And to the starch, we have added some sulfurous acid, H2SO3. Now, to ensure that the chemicals will mix thoroughly, we'll agitate them violently. Add the starch. More mixing. And nothing happens. Oh, but we haven't prevented the reaction. We've merely delayed it just a bit. Watch the solution carefully. Now, that wasn't an accident. It happened right on schedule. 17 seconds. The chemicals were mixed that way. All right, let's try it again, and this time make it a little longer. Say 26 seconds. See, according to our figures, that should require 85 milliliters of the starch solution. Measure it as carefully as we can here under these conditions. I think that should do it. Once again, we agitate the solution, add the starch, and start the clock at the same time. Now, this is a photoelectric cell relay. It is controlled by the light beam passing through the liquid. When the beam of light is interrupted, the clock will stop. And when the chemical change takes place, it will stop the clock and time the reaction automatically. Watch it carefully now. There it is, exactly 26 seconds.
As we continue, we will compare some of the alternative remedies to the gold standard of the official Bill of Health. The truths of natural law and the word of the Creator of mankind are our protection against the witch of Endor and her counterfeit currency. Before King Saul's visit to the witch of Endor, God had warned him that he was heading in a downward path toward witchcraft. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. Like bankers trained thoroughly to recognize the characteristics of the official currency so that they will immediately recognize the counterfeits, we need to study the characteristics of the Bill of Health so that we may recognize any counterfeit currencies. They may be discerned by this simple formula: to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. As we turn the pages of history, scientific discoveries must be compared to the plan set forth in the Holy Scriptures, the greatest medical manual of all time. In 1754, more British sailors were dying from scurvy during wartime than were killed in combat, until James Lind published a treatise on scurvy. Nearly 2 centuries earlier, the Dutch had discovered the benefits of citrus fruits and juices to sailors on long voyages. Lind, a physician and surgeon, who is often called the founder of naval hygiene in England, recommended this dietary practice. When it was finally adopted by the Royal Navy in 1795, scurvy disappeared from the ranks, as if by magic. Today, we recognize that scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency, and that the oranges, lemons, and limes recommended by Lind all contain vitamin C. It was not magic at all, but the simple laws of nature that cured one of the oldest nutritional disorders of mankind. This fruitful remedy bears the stamp of truth straight from the mouth of God, whose prescription was, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food." During the flu epidemic of 1918, however, a different remedy stood out as the difference between life and death.
In villages in Alaska, for example, the whole village would become sick at once. There'd be nobody to provide food, nobody to provide shelter. These things can make a difference. And even in wealthy nations like the United States, the conclusion at the end of 1918 and 1919 was that the single most important thing that could save your life from flu was good nursing care. Not medicines, not doctors, not hospitals, but good nursing care. When you first read those things, you're likely to say, oh, that can't be true. What could they do in those days? You know, what's chicken soup going to do? What's a blanket going to do? I believe the data. They're strong, and some of the best and smartest physicians, nurses, and other observers said it again and again, good nursing care.
Good nursing care, too, fits the official Bill of Health, demonstrating that persistent effort is often involved in the healing of disease. For God's own handbook of health states, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not." The characteristic of good nursing care and healing bears the image and superscription of truth, perhaps more than any other. For Matthew records, "And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people." This Greek word for healing is where we get the English word therapy. It means literally to wait upon menially, and is closely related to the word therapon, meaning a menial attendant. In other words, a nurse. Christ's ministry of healing sets the standard for nursing care. It was composed of 3 parts, combining physical, mental, and spiritual healing. Florence Nightingale is recognized as the founder of the modern nursing profession, but fewer people realize that she established her conclusions by charting results and using statistical analysis. Perhaps she is remembered most for her work during the Crimean War.
When Nightingale and her band of nurses arrived at Scutari, the hospital in the Crimea, they were shocked at what they found.
The field hospitals were positioned on cesspools of putrid water. Patients were lying in their filth. More soldiers were dying from infections than they were from wounds sustained on the battlefield.
Many of the reforms that Florence Nightingale instituted were quite revolutionary. Nightingale insisted that there be fresh air and water for all the soldiers, that recuperating soldiers receive healthy food to eat to help make them better, and that all of the bandages and sheets and blankets were adequately laundered each day.
By the time she was done, Florence Nightingale had succeeded in reducing the death rate within these military hospitals by 2/3.
Known as the Angel of the Crimea, Nightingale returned to England and received a hero's welcome, a medal from Queen Victoria, and a gift of $250,000.
The life-saving reforms of Florence Nightingale add multiple other remedies to our list. Many of these reforms, including nutrition and cleanliness, are set forth in her book, Notes on Nursing. She opened the window to allow entrance of fresh air. She realized the importance of sunlight and water. These remedies were all fashioned and personally approved for us by a loving Creator, and the record states that God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. But it was not just Florence Nightingale who recognized the vital importance of cleanliness. It was also recognized about this time by Ignaz Philipp Semmelweis, a Hungarian doctor. He connected the fact that 12 out of every 100 women in the maternity ward were dying of childbirth fever with the fact that doctors went directly from the morgue examinations to deliver babies without washing their hands. Unfortunately, he was fiercely attacked for this discovery and never received the credit due to him during his lifetime. Today, the value of thorough hand washing to avoid the spread of disease is widely accepted. But the principles of sanitation, cleanliness, and laws for avoiding contamination from the dead were taught as health statutes and sealed as truth by God centuries before. They may still be found today in the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy. It is recorded, "And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive." But the health saga continues. In the late 1800s, Battle Creek Sanitarium, under the leadership of John Harvey Kellogg, was recognized worldwide for its success in curing disease.
Kellogg is the man who chose the word sanitarium because what he wanted is a place where people come to learn how to get healthy and to stay healthy.
People were getting fresh air, sunlight, patients who were taking walks, and he understood the benefit of the natural healing effects that were available in the environment.
He experimented with heat treatments and hydrotherapies. Scores of celebrities came to Battle Creek, including President William Howard Taft, King Edward, inventor Thomas Edison, pilot Amelia Earhart. Kellogg Sanitarium was now the largest health institution in the world.
These rich people came because they wanted to feel better.
Kellogg implemented the principles of rest, exercise, temperance, hydrotherapy, and trust in God as part of the Bill of Health. In fact, Kellogg is credited with inspiring a national exercise movement. Furthermore, Kellogg was known for praying before his surgeries. The story is told of a man who traveled from Washington, D.C. to Battle Creek for a minor surgery. The reason given was, "I did not want the operation performed unless you prayed first." All of these remedies are firmly founded in the health guidelines set forth in the Word of God, which are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Nevertheless, no historic synopsis of healing could be complete without learning directly at the feet of the greatest physician to walk this earth, for his word alone constitutes what is truth. In the time of Christ, many of the afflicted ones who received healing were admonished by him, "Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon thee." Thus the Creator taught that disease is generally the result of violating God's laws, both natural and spiritual. The rational conclusion is that the cause must then be ascertained and the offensive practice or environment removed. It might also be well to note that among the first of the remedies the Creator prescribed after the entrance of sin was, "Thou shalt eat the herb of the field." David records, "He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and the herb for the service of man." Today, science recognizes that many harmless herbs like garlic and milk thistle are beneficial in cleansing and rejuvenation of the body. Another lesson may be drawn from the book of John. It records the story of a man who was blind from birth. Jesus employed one of the simple agencies of nature to heal him, anointing the man's eyes with clay and instructing him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. Here, Jesus demonstrated yet again the perfect equation to be used for healing: divine power connected with human effort. At the same time, he sanctioned the use of simple and harmless natural remedies. The Bill of Health is firmly founded on the principle of life laid out by the Creator of mankind, for the life of the flesh is in the blood. True healing cleanses and builds the blood instead of poisoning its current. Each remedy has a part to play. Good nutrition and herbs build good blood. The drinking of water affects the blood, effectively both lowering or raising blood pressure as needed. Exercise and hydrotherapy improve blood circulation, and even good nursing care and trust in God contribute to a positive attitude, which has been shown to have a positive effect on the blood. Truly, as David said, "Through thy precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way." Although there is only one genuine Bill of Health, it is indispensable in uncovering a myriad of counterfeit CUREncies. The great medical manual warns us about a wickedness coming using counterfeit miracles. These will be accepted by those who haven't taken the time to appreciate the truth. It warns of him whose coming is after the workings of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. How important it is then to understand truth. Well, we cannot deny that many alternative health practitioners are sincere in their desire to help people. Some of the phenomena that alternative medicine has to offer are cleverly packaged to mislead. They are based upon abstract concepts, and like an ore half immersed in water appears to be bent, or a mirage that appears in the desert misleads. Following our senses is an unsafe guide. Feelings and impressions are unreliable guides. It is impossible to distinguish between the counterfeit methods of healing and the true except by the Holy Scriptures. By their testimony, every statement and every miracle must be tested. For Jesus himself warned of the last days. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. The Prince of Wales stated that it makes good sense to evaluate complementary medicine and alternative therapies. For one thing, since an estimated £1.6 billion is spent each year on them, then we want value for money. So let's investigate. Is England getting her money's worth, or just counterfeit CUREncy? In recent decades, homeopathy has become one of the fastest growing forms of alternative medicine, particularly in Europe, although it is also popular in India and is legally sold as medicine in many countries. It has many adherents, including the royal family in England. Perhaps, as investigators, we should note that any good counterfeit must also contain some elements of truth, for error can seldom stand alone without detection. Homeopathy is a system of alternative medicine created in 1796 by Samuel Hahnemann. Hahnemann promoted not only good personal hygiene, but also good hygienic conditions for the home and its surroundings. Diet, fresh air, and exercise were also part of his regimen. Another crucial part of homeopathy is the consultation, and people appreciate the individualized care in this area. These perhaps helped to secure some of the claims of the success of homeopathy. However, the foundation of homeopathy is based on his doctrine of like cures like, according to which a substance that causes the symptoms of a disease in healthy people will cure similar symptoms in sick people.
It's the principle that like cures like.
For instance, in colds and hay fever, something we often use is allium cepa, which is onion. And of course, we all know the effects of chopping an onion, the sore, streaming eyes, streaming nose, sneezing. And so we would use allium cepa, onion, for a cold with similar sorts of features.
This theory that like cures like led to thousands of different substances being used, some of them truly bizarre.
In principle, you can make a homeopathic remedy out of absolutely anything. That's plant,
deadly nightshade,
animal,
snake venom,
mineral,
calcium carbonate, which is of course chalk,
disease product,
tuberculous gland of a cow,
radiation.
These remedies are touted to cure everything from colds and flu to polio and malaria. As seen on this site, homeopathy uses many plant and mineral substances in its remedies. With known poisons like arsenic touted as medicine, the question could be asked, how is this legal and how do its believers survive? This may be explained by another law of homeopathy, the idea that remedies become more effective with greater dilution. The website for the Society of Homeopaths states, homeopathy is a system of medicine which involves treating the individual with highly diluted substances, given mainly in tablet form, with the aim of triggering the body's natural system of healing. While using the body's natural system of healing sounds good to most people, it would be well to understand just how diluted many homeopathic remedies are. Homeopaths use a special process to create their remedies. According to Wikipedia, homeopaths use a process called dynamization or potentization, whereby a substance is diluted with alcohol or distilled water and then vigorously shaken by 10 hard strikes against an elastic body in a process homeopaths call succussion. Modernly, this stage is sometimes done by machine, but however it is done, the process begins when a single drop of the active ingredient, such as arsenic or arnica, is added to 99 drops of water or alcohol. The substance is then shaken. This yields what is called a 1C solution. A single drop of this solution is then taken and diluted in another 99 parts of water. This is called a 2C solution. Hahnemann created this centesimal or C scale, diluting a substance by a factor of 100 at each stage. He believed that the more dilute the solution, the more potent it became. Hahnemann believed that this process aroused and enhanced the spirit-like medicinal powers of the crude substances. Supporters of homeopathy attribute this unbelievable concept to the memory of water and the signature or energy imprint of the original substance. In a 6C solution, the active ingredient is diluted by 100, 6 times. The result is 1 part in 1 trillion. This is equivalent to 1 drop in 20 swimming pools. The dilution of a 12C solution is equivalent to 1 drop in the Atlantic Ocean. A 30C solution, which is commonly used by homeopaths, is so dilute that 1 drop in all the oceans on the planet would be more concentrated than this remedy. There is also a decimal potency scale, noted as X, in which the remedy is diluted by a factor of 10 at each stage. Again, dilution usually continues well past the point where no molecules of the original substance remain. Case in point, a popular homeopathic treatment for the flu is a 400x dilution of duck heart and liver, marketed under this name. It is sold in many pharmacies and health food stores worldwide. Yet the packaging boldly states that each gram of medication contains 0.85 grams of sucrose and 0.15 grams of lactose, which are both forms of sugar. In other words, this flu remedy is nothing more than a 100% sugar pill, a very profitable sugar pill. An article published in a 1996 U.S. News and World Report stated, "This single French duck may be the most valuable animal on the planet, as an extract of its heart and liver form the sole active ingredient in a flu remedy that is expected to generate sales of $20 million or more." A rational conclusion, as stated by skeptics, is remedies free of active ingredients worth $20 million derived from a single duck? This has to be the ultimate form of medical quackery. Yet although the key concept of homeopathy is in conflict with the fundamental concepts of physics and chemistry, its influence continues to spread. CBC News reporter Erica Johnson for Marketplace conducted an investigation on the homeopathy industry in Canada.
Marketplace heads to the University of Toronto and orders up a test, the first of its kind in Canada.
So this is the lab where we analyze the homeopathic remedies.
We asked chemist Matthew Forbes to analyze 2 of the most popular over-the-counter homeopathic medicines, belladonna and ipecac, both at the common 30C dilution factor. In each product, Forbes is looking for any trace of the active ingredient. And what's he find?
It's below a level that we can accurately or precisely measure. It's roughly equivalent to 5 billion times less than the amount of aspirin that you would take in a single pellet.
The active ingredient is 5 billion times less than what you find in an aspirin.
That's right.
5 billion times less?
That's right.
So, if there's no actual medicine, what is in these pills?
We can say that they are primarily sucrose and lactose. Any active ingredient that is left is at such a small concentration in comparison to the sugar. It's virtually mind-boggling.
Yep, they're basically sugar pills. In fact, if you were to compare Ipecac and Belladonna, how different are these two pills?
Both are below the limit of detection using our instrumentation, and so we would be unable to distinguish them in a blind test.
That's right. There's no way he can tell them apart. This homeopathy's starting to sound pretty suspect.
Despite this discrepancy, science continues on a yo-yo of proving, then again disproving, that homeopathy works. To avoid drifting in the science of the unknown, one must anchor to the rock of truth in God's own handbook for health. The concept of dilution used in homeopathy is directly contrary to the laws of health given by God. The book of Leviticus records that if a dead carcass was found in or on vessels, they were unclean or contaminated until they had been cleansed. Nevertheless, a fountain or a pit wherein there is plenty of water shall be clean, but that which toucheth their carcass shall be unclean. In other words, according to God's word, the more water there is, the more dilute the poison. As we dig a little deeper into homeopathy, we find some interesting statements concerning the real basis for homeopathic medicine. One website, homeopathyzone.com, states, "Homeopathy is a powerful healing system that is uniquely able to restore health and well-being by correcting the spiritual imbalance that lies at the core of all illness." Its bold headline declares homeopathy to be powerful spiritual medicine. This is a reference back to the very roots of homeopathy, when Hahnemann taught that deep-seated ailments can be corrected only by removing the deeper disturbance of the vital force. In his book, Homeopathy, Dr. J.H. Bope wrote, homeopathy, willingly favors healing through substances made dynamic, that is to say, charged with occult forces. If you are one of the many sincere souls searching for truth undiluted with heathen philosophy, why not answer the invitation from the great physician to draw the water of life from the wells of salvation? Choose today to exchange the counterfeit CUREncy of homeopathy for the heaven-blessed water miracles of hydrotherapy and the real bill of health. Long ago, around the year 2240 BC, in direct rebellion against God's command to spread out and repopulate the world, the descendants of Noah congregated together under the leadership of Cush, also known as Hermes, and his son Nimrod, also known as Ninus, to build the city and a tower that was later called Babel, or Babylon. Nimrod was a mighty hunter and won the respect and worship of all the people. Here with Cush and Nimrod can be found the origin of all false and pagan worship, hence also the origin of pagan healing practices, since historically the priests were also the healers. Nimrod was later killed to destroy his influence, but his wife, Semiramis, also known as Isis and Aurora, concocted the story that Nimrod's spirit had gone into the sun, and he became Ra, the sun god. This is the original birth of the false system of sun worship that we have today. Semiramis was a very licentious woman, and after Nimrod died, she became pregnant. Not wanting to damage her false reputation as a virgin, she concocted the story that the spirit from her husband, the sun god, had come down in the energy of a sunbeam and impregnated her. And here, with the supposedly magical birth of her godson, Tammuz, we find the origin or the foundation of all the modern false methods of healing. When God confounded the language at Babel, the people spread out to various parts of the world, taking their pagan worship and false concepts with them. Over the centuries, the religious beliefs of the many varied cultures on planet Earth have morphed into different systems of religion, but this mythical God energy or life energy is the underlying theme and motivation behind many of the false religions and their counterfeit CUREncies. Let's consider again the warning given by Paul. This scripture warns of him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and of a coming strong delusion that they should believe a lie. Paul warned that in the future a deception would come from Satan based on lying wonders or miracles. It would be a strong delusion, literally translatable as energy fraudulent or fraudulent energy. But let's return to the story of Dr. Kellogg. Unfortunately, history records that in his later years, Dr. Kellogg came under this energy deception. He wrote a book called The Living Temple. In this book, the assertion was made that God is in the flower and in the leaf. Kellogg began to teach the false science of pantheism, an idea merging God and nature together, with God as a force or energy in nature. This fraudulent energy was the seed of the same paganistic nature worship condemned by God in the Bible. God commanded, "Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, lest thou lift up thine eyes to heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them." Throughout the ages, man has mistakenly exalted nature as God, but nature is the servant of her creator. God's word controls the elements. His power is still exerted in upholding the objects of his creation. It is not because the mechanism that has once been set in motion continues to act by its own inherent energy that the pulse beats and breath follows breath, but every breath, every pulsation of the heart is an evidence of the all-pervading care of Him in whom we live and move and have our being. If we consult the bill of health, we will remember that God declared that the life of the flesh is in the current of the blood. In contrast, Satan's delusion is that the life is in a fraudulent current of energy. The Bible warns that once we leave the physical realm of flesh and blood, we enter into a spiritual world. Faith in God's Word is a vital part of our protection from the deceptions of Satan. The Bible says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." In her book titled ISIS Unveiled, H.P. Blavatsky, a well-known spiritualist writer, speaks about this fraudulent energy as supernatural. She states, "Call the phenomena force, energy, electricity, or magnetism, will or spirit power. It will ever be the partial manifestation of the soul, pervading all nature and known as God." Speaking rather of her God, who is Satan. But the true God is not merely an all-pervading principle, an actuating energy. God is a spirit, yet He is a personal being, for man was made in His image. This fraudulent energy sounds much like what Paul refers to as the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. This nature energy is simply Satan as the pagan goddess Isis that is written about in Blavatsky's book. Isis is considered by spiritualists to be the symbol of nature with power to cure diseases by her influence. According to Blavatsky, Galen mentions also a universal medicine, which in his time was called Isis. This spirit or energy is separate from the truth and void of the atoning blood of Christ shed on Calvary to save a lost race. Yet today a myriad of healing practices are based on the life being in this energy. It comes cloaked under many different names. In fact, this energy has been given at least 90 different names, yet they all refer to the same thing. Of the men who gave so many names to this energy, it was found that the first 50 of them were channelers and psychics. This energy is the logos of the Greeks, the prana of Hinduism, the vital energy of homeopathy, the odic force of the Ouija board, the force of the Star Wars movies, and the chi of Taoism and traditional Chinese medicine.
Man, oh man, was back pain a big topic last week. You know, we got a lot of feedback from viewers, and when the docs talk about back pain and potential treatments, one popular option is acupuncture. Do you know that reports show over 14 million Americans have either used it or tried it? Dr. Samadi, acupuncture, does it really work?
Acupuncture has its roots in traditional Chinese medicine, which in turn is rooted in Chinese culture and religion. In detecting counterfeits, one often has to dig out the root, for the great detector states, "And if the root be holy, so are the branches." Some of the branches of Oriental culture appear as harmless branches, such as care and respect for the aged and the use of herbal medicines. However, we are going to examine the root. 3 underlying philosophies that are prominent in Chinese culture: Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Perhaps an oversimplified explanation of these is that Confucianism is concerned mostly with the political ideas and social harmony of Chinese culture. Taoism, China's main native religion, is mainly concerned with the health of the human body, and Buddhism is primarily concerned with psychology and the nature of the mind. The concept of Tao, meaning way or path, is found in all these Chinese schools of thought. Because of this, some Christians consider this to be a counterfeit for Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me." Taoism is codified in the Tao Te Ching, history's second most translated book after Christianity's Holy Bible. Taoists worship many gods, but the principle of the yin and the yang and qi lie at the very root of Taoism. Qi is the Chinese word used to describe the natural energy of the universe. Yin and yang are said to be 2 complementary and opposite systems of this energy. Yin is used to represent darkness, the female, the left side of the body, the moon, and negative energy, while the yang is used to represent light, the male, the right side of the body, the sun, and positive energy. The theory is that positive and negative are both necessary, they just must be kept in balance. Disease is said to occur when these are out of balance. These principles form the foundation of Chinese medicine. Tai Chi, the Chinese system of therapeutic exercises, are comprised of 37 movement patterns, the composition of which is regulated by the principles of the yin and the yang. Tai Chi, a form of meditation and motion which is said to promote health, is an important part of the Taoist religion. The practices of Taoism can be described in 3 basic divisions.
Temples provide a diverse set of teachings grouped together in 3 broad methods of practice that Taoists call the 3 vehicles. The first vehicle focuses on doing good deeds. The second is ritual ceremonies. And the third vehicle embraces techniques and postures that are called internal alchemy. The third vehicle's most common forms of expression are meditation and Tai Chi. The mind and body exercise together to cultivate good health.
Tai Chi is one of the most popular styles of a broader spectrum of martial arts called Qigong that has been called the forerunner of traditional Chinese medicine. An article in U.S. News and World Report entitled "An Opiate of the Masses" stated that adherents in China say that the Falun Gong master can cure cancer, heal the blind, and make the white hair turn black. Throughout history, Qigong masters have captivated the public with their miracle cures, soothsaying, and other tricks ranging from levitating objects to communicating with aliens and changing the odor of cigarettes. Both Tai Chi and Qigong are based on the same belief in a life energy called Qi. The book, Traditional Chinese Medicine, states that these activities are always with a spiritual element. Traditional Chinese medicine is also based upon the 7 principles of the yin and the yang, many of which are directly opposed to the scripture. One of these is, everything changes. Yet in the Bible we find that God says, "For I am the Lord, I change not." In the book of Hebrews we read, "Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever." Another law of the yin and yang is, all antagonisms are complementary. This concept is exactly opposite of what is presented in the scriptures. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. Jesus and Satan are not complementary to each other. Yet today, healing practices based on the theories of the yin-yang and qi continue to grow.
Might seem downright nuts, but more and more Americans are finding comfort and healing in this ancient Eastern medical practice. Acupuncture, the ancient Chinese art of healing, around for 2,500 years and now finding a following among 3 million Americans, like Sarah Soslow.
Okay, Sarah, why don't you get on up? Very good. Get comfortable.
Needles that look like they could cause pain, taken away instead.
The needles are very small. Once they're in, you don't feel any discomfort at all. Every once in a while you sort of feel a tingling, but definitely not unpleasant.
The needles are meant to stimulate certain points and channels along the body, relieving pain by balancing the body's qi, or life energy.
Right in the tip top of her head, right here. Just like that.
Dan Shu is her acupuncturist. Where he puts the needles and how deep depends on the ailment. For Sarah, it's migraines, but acupuncture has been used to treat everything from asthma to infertility.
Chinese physiology has astrology as its foundation. One of the basic principles of Taoism is that man, a microcosm, is the image of the cosmos, macrocosm. According to the early concepts of traditional Chinese medicine, Qi moved along 12 meridians and had 365 points. Today, there are more points and 14 meridians are said to exist. These meridians are said to transfer the Qi energy around to all the organs and body parts. Consequently, all the organs, systems, and parts of the body are considered secondary in relation to Qi, which provides them all with the power to function. Acupuncture or needling of these points is said to order and balance the distribution of the Qi energy to organs. Possibly the most obvious problem with this theory is that it is physiologically incorrect. One scientific writer states, "Today we can gain insights into a living dynamic body thanks to endoscopes, x-rays, MRI scans, CAT scans, and ultrasound. And yet scientists are still unable to find a shred of evidence to support the existence of meridians or Qi." Other scientists deny the claims of acupuncture as mythology.
I can see how inserting a needle might, for example, produce endorphins, which are a natural, we produce our own opiates, and they will relieve discomfort, and they work very effectively. But you could probably do the same thing by stubbing your toe. What you've got is something that appears to work some of the time, although its successes are usually wildly exaggerated and may be nothing more than relieving the anxiety of the person because you're doing something for them. But the physiology, all this other stuff that's laid on top of it, is pure mythology. There's nothing there that can be supported by modern science.
But some scientists are actually starting to believe the theory of acupuncture. A BBC documentary showed convincing images of a woman having open heart surgery with acupuncture for a painkiller.
In China, a young woman is having open heart surgery. But it's unlike anything you'll see in the West. She's still conscious. Because instead of a general anesthetic, this 21st century surgical team are using a 2,000-year-old method of controlling pain: acupuncture.
Millions of us now believe that this simple needle has extraordinary powers.
The book Trick or Treatment states, British journalists and the general public were amazed by the extraordinary images, but a report by the Royal College of Anesthetists cast the operation in a different light. It is obvious from her appearance that the patient has already received sedative drugs, and I am informed that these comprised midazolam, dipiridol, and fentanyl. The doses used were small, but these types of drugs amplify the effect of each other so that the effect becomes greater. Fentanyl is not actually a sedative drug in the most strict sense, but it is a pain-killing drug that is considered more powerful than morphine. The third component of the anesthetic is seen on the tape as well, and that is the infiltration of quite large volumes of local anesthetic into the tissues on the front of the chest where the surgical incision is made. Obviously, the science behind this evidence of acupuncture was faulty at best. It is of further interest that ancient acupuncture needles displayed in the Museum of Traditional Chinese Medicine are much larger and look like something that could do a significant amount of damages and draw a lot of blood. Could these needles be like those of the false prophets on Mount Carmel, who were exposed by God through the instrumentality of Prophet Elijah? And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. Could this practice and similar ones be why God commanded his people, "Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord"? The Word of God, the foundation of all true science, is always a better judge of truth than our senses. A careful study of the Scriptures finds a basis for anatomy, including the existence of bones, bone marrow, sinews and flesh, or muscles and tendons, breath, suggesting lungs, heart, blood, gallbladder, liver, kidneys, stomach, and parts that seem to be feeble but are necessary parts, possibly things like the lymph nodes and the appendix. But there is absolutely no foundation for meridians or qi. Because of this, accepting the practices of meridian-based therapies immediately places doubt in the mind as to the authority of the Word of God. This could be acupuncture's most dangerous side effect. Yet acupuncture continues to spread outside of China and assumes some milder appearing techniques, according to this acupuncturist on the Balance channel.
Hello, I'm Jillian Marsollier, registered acupuncturist. Welcome to the Balance channel. The medicine of acupuncture spread to neighboring countries including Japan, Vietnam, Korea by around 500 BC, and finally to Europe in around the 16th century. The spread of this medicine to different countries and cultures is the reason for the many different styles of acupuncture you can find today.
It is evident that the spread of this practice has not only become prominent in other localities, but there are many different varieties of acupuncture practice today. Some acupuncture is even conducted using laser or electroacupuncture or sonopuncture. The practices of cupping, moxibustion, and acupressure and the use of ear seeds are all based on qi and this same meridian therapy. Eastern massage, or shiatsu, is also used to relax you, but the method and philosophy behind it are different. Although shiatsu has its origins in acupuncture, it doesn't involve a needle. Instead, the therapist will use finger pressure on various acupuncture points. The theory is that when these points are pressed, energy that is trapped within your body producing pain or illness is released. But this is not all traditional Chinese medicine has to offer. Diagnosis is often done using tongue and pulse diagnosis. Chinese pulse diagnosis is very different from that of Western medicine, as seen here.
Let's just start with here in the West. The way we take our pulse traditionally is using these two fingers and placing them on the radial artery. Typically 60 to 100 beats per minute is in the normal range. Anything above or below that could pose a problem. In Eastern medicine, it's very, very different.
Absolutely.
It's very complex,
yes.
And it's an art.
Mm-hmm.
So show viewers at home, I guess, how to place our fingers and really what information we're getting from doing that.
Mm-hmm. In Chinese medicine, we also use the radial artery, and we place our middle finger on a radial bone just next to the styloid process, and then the index finger and ring finger next to them, this way, like that. So we take the pulse first superficially, looking for the state of the qi, then palpate, find it deeper, looking for the state of the blood, and then even checking it deeper, the root of the pulse.
So we have 3 levels that you're checking?
Yes.
Okay, so three fingers, 3 levels. The first level is the level of qi, the level of our energy.
Yes.
The second level is the level of blood.
Of blood.
And the third level is yin.
Root.
The root. What does that mean? Just generally.
Generally, talking that the pulse has root, that means that the pulse has a very good qi, has a very good source of energy coming.
Okay. So you're using her right arm.
Right arm.
And we have both yin and yang organs.
Mm-hmm.
So did you explain that yet?
No.
Okay.
So from the right hand, we check the functional state of the yang organs. Under my first finger, here is a lung. I'm checking the lung, and then there will be spleen and stomach, and then kidney and urinary bladder. So we take the pulse, all 3 at the same time, and then we check them one by one, like lung, spleen, stomach, kidney, urinary bladder.
Mm-hmm.
It is evident that this form of pulse diagnosis is based largely on belief in the qi and the principle of the yin and the yang. Today, this concept is better known as astrology, the supposed effect of the macrocosm of space on the microcosm of the human body. In the ancient world, this concept was in great request, as men supposed the heavenly bodies to have a ruling influence over the physical and moral world. But God warned against basing our faith in these methods. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, for the customs of the people are vain. To those who may have been deceived by a well-commercialized counterfeit, the challenge goes out today to exchange the counterfeit currents of traditional Chinese medicine for the true power found only in the infallible Word of God. Let the wise men from the East seek the genuine bill of health and Jesus Christ, who is the only way to life. As we continue our investigation, let's take a step back in time to the first presentation of counterfeit currency, or Cure-ncy, on planet Earth. The first introduction of the seed of error exposes the foundation of the tactical intelligence of Satan's counterfeiting plan. Beneath the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the plot begins to form as a serpent tempts Eve, the first woman. An amazingly accurate account of this has been passed down over thousands of years and is recorded for us in the book of Genesis. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know in the day ye eat thereof that your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. It is a wily stratagem that the devil uses. It is threefold in its nature. First, he says, Yea, hath God said. This puts doubt into the mind as to the authority and accuracy of the word and way of God, which is our only protection against spiritualism. Then he lies, Ye shall not surely die, a direct contradiction of God's word that states, The wages of sin is death. And finally he lies, Ye shall be as gods, promising supernatural knowledge and wisdom of both good and evil. In counterfeit methods of healing, we will find these concepts repeated again and again. In Eden, Satan used the serpent as his instrument. Today he makes use of the members of the human family, striving by every means of cunning and deception to confuse God's people. Those who, like Eve, follow the desire of their senses instead of a plain, Thus saith the Lord, will find themselves entwined in the deadly coils of that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. As we continue our journey of investigation, we find rooted in India the compelling philosophy of Ayurveda. Today, it has become so popular that often it is practiced along with Western allopathic medicine.
The allopathic medicine and these ancient medicine combinedly, I think, can be immense benefit to humanity.
Some of its miracle cures have even made it to CNN.
A head injury at work had left Etchuli with persistent dizziness and ringing in the ears. This is her second visit to Ayurveda Shala.
Well, before I was bedridden. I can't face crowds going out in the light and the sounds. And now I feel quite normal and I can walk by myself, and that is a real miracle for me.
Etchuli's treatment included this one, where a patient is fitted with a leather cap that is filled with a small amount of warm oil and left on the head for about an hour. There has been growing interest in Ayurveda in the West, and in the United States, studies are underway on the effectiveness of Ayurvedic medicine, including uses for cardiovascular conditions, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, a medical system meant to keep the body, mind, and spirit in healthy balance. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, reporting.
Ayurveda is said to have appeared sometime before 1700 BC. It emerged from an ancient body of knowledge called the Vedas. This knowledge is said to have been divinely revealed to ancient sages. In fact, Veda is the Sanskrit word for knowledge. Ayus is the Sanskrit word meaning life. Thus, Ayurveda means life knowledge or knowledge of life. Yet this knowledge of life is void of Jesus Christ, who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. It may then come as no surprise that the Ayurvedic healing tradition is an integral part of the religion of Hinduism. In fact, a BBC production featuring Ayurveda rightly asked the question, does Ayurveda work today? And can Hinduism heal? Since Ayurveda recognizes the importance of treating the whole person, physical, mental, and spiritual, physical healing is not all that is hoped for with the treatments.
Ayurveda is not just about treating a medical condition like we do in modern medicine.
Dr. Milind Jani is a fully qualified Ayurvedic doctor. He's also a GP and a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons. His wife Asmita runs her own private health clinic. They're based in the cosmopolitan city of Brighton, home to every alternative treatment under the sun. Milind will be offering Ayurvedic treatment to our patients, but he'll be hoping that his Hindu beliefs will help them too. Does Ayurveda work today, and can Hinduism heal?
It seems that Christians aren't the only missionaries. Many of the beliefs and practices of Ayurveda are similar to those of ancient Chinese medicine. The basis of all treatments in the Ayurveda system is the balancing of the life energies within us. In Ayurveda massage, there are 107 marma points similar to the acupuncture points of Chinese medicine. Practitioners believe by massaging these points, they are able to facilitate a free flow of energy or prana. They believe these different points to be connected to different organs in the body. Different marma points may require specific oils applied to them when massaged. These points have no real physiological basis. Like traditional Chinese medicine, many of the ideas of Ayurveda are founded in the belief that the human body is a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm of space.
That what all things you cannot see in the human body is not there in the universe also. In other words, what all things you see outside is present in the human body also. What all things you can see in the universe, you can see in this human body.
According to Ayurveda, every human is a small cosmos constructed from the elements of nature: air, fire, and water. The unique mix of these elements determine a person's nature. It also determines that person's susceptibility to illness.
Ayurvedic medicine's belief is that a balance of the three elemental substances, the doshas, equals health, while imbalance equals disease.
Central to this healing science is the doctrine of Tridosha, the vital energies of Vata, Pitta and Kapha.
Beautiful aspects of Ayurveda is its Tridosha Siddhanta, or the Tridosha principle, based on which everything in Ayurveda works. We say in Ayurveda that a Vaidya should be dosha gadrik. He should see doshas in everything, in human being, in the plants kingdom, in the things which are immovable, everything a Vaidya should start seeing doshas. And Vata, Pitta and Kapha, the three doshas which govern the entire universe according to Ayurveda. And what is this Tridoshas? Tridoshas are nothing but a recombination in biological system by the different elements which we call as Panchamahabhutas.
Behind the concept of the three doshas is that of the 5 elements.
Now, in the Ayurvedic worldview, every single thing in the cosmos, including we human beings, are actually composed of 5 great elements. And this is bhuta. 5 great bhutas are elements. That's a Sanskrit word for it. And these 5 great elements are space, air, fire, water, and earth. Now, when we talk about elements in this context, we're not talking about the physical substance of fire or the physical substance of air. We're actually talking more about the qualities that are embodied in these substances. So, for example, fire would be the quality of heat, or illumination. Water would be the quality of fluidity. Earth would be the quality of stability or solidity. So in the Ayurvedic worldview, these 5 great elements in all different permutations and combinations account for the entire universe as we know it. Now, these 5 great elements, when they come together to form sentient life, they are transmutated into a little bit more of a subtle form, which are called doshas. So doshas are bioenergetic forces which are actually the result of the pairing of the great elements. So space and air come together to form vata dosha. Fire and water come together to form pitta dosha. And water and earth come together to form kapha dosha. So I just wanted to say that this diagram is something that we're going to have to come back to multiple times and refer back to this, because even though it's a fairly simple diagram, it actually contains a lot of profound information in terms of why Ayurveda recommends what it does in terms of treatments or in terms of its assessments. And so it's really important to understand that these qualities of space, air, fire, water, and earth, and understanding these qualities is really instrumental to understanding the whole Ayurvedic worldview.
It becomes obvious rather quickly that Hindu philosophy and Ayurveda are united even at the level of diagnosis using these 3 doshas. However, much of Ayurveda is appealing to those searching for the bill of health. Ayurvedic practitioners may prescribe things as practical as drinking water, exercising, or other lifestyle changes. One of the foundations of Ayurveda is nutrition, although even this has a shaky foundation in the 3 doshas that stem directly from the concept of the 5 elements.
People who have a lot of fire, or pitta, in their nature have to stay away from food and activities that will inflame them and throw their body out of balance. They need the cooling influence of water, or kapha. In the event of a health problem, the person's makeup is determined first, and then a diagnosis is made. By observing human nature, the knowledge of health has grown over many millennia. Proper nutrition is the root of Ayurveda. A person who eats the right foods balances the elements of life, or their doshas. Eating the wrong foods reinforces the body's problems. A person with too much fire should eat very little seafood and no sour fruits, such as grapefruit. A calm, understated person, on the other hand, needs activating foods such as apples, celery, or radishes. In Ayurveda, food is a science. People who apply Ayurveda recommendations to their lifestyle start to see benefits in energy and endurance. Only in the case of illness must one follow strict rules.
Unfortunately, though Ayurveda makes use of a multitude of herbs, this does not mean that they are harmless herbs. In addition to herbs, Ayurvedic medicines may also be composed of minerals, metals, and/or animal products. In fact, according to Cancer.org, heavy metals such as arsenic, lead, and mercury have been found in excess quantities in up to 1 in 5 Ayurvedic medicines, and a number of lead poisoning cases have been reported. Advocates of Ayurveda talk about a detoxification process for metals like mercury and lead.
But the other thing that I wanted to say is that in Ayurveda, many times actually things like mercury, things like gold, silver, they actually are used in the production of these Ayurvedic herbs and medicines, and they can be very, very powerful, but they also have to undergo a very rigorous detoxification procedure in order for them to be considered useful. So in Ayurveda, everything is considered potentially a medicine under the sun, but everything is also considered potentially a poison. And so the only difference between a poison and a medicine is how skillfully the preparation is done and whether it's applied properly. So if you have the preparation done incorrectly or you apply it in the wrong context, then what could be a potent medicine becomes a poison and vice versa. And so it's very, very important to understand that in Ayurvedic, in the traditional Ayurvedic training, which actually took 12 years, and you had to be an apprentice, for years with a master practitioner before you could go out on your own and do this stuff. you had to detox it. Learning detoxification was actually very, very critical. So they have these formulas called samskaras for how you detoxify something like lead, for example, or mercury to make it usable. And
is it really rational to think that you can detoxify mercury and lead to make them beneficial for the body? It would be far safer to take a stand on a plain, "Thus saith the great physician." Doth a fountain send forth at the same time sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Other remedies used in Ayurveda are focused on cleansing and detoxification. Panchakarma uses internally and externally applied oils and herbs, steam treatments, massage, nasal washing, sweating, vomiting, laxatives, enemas, and even bloodletting. While sweating caused by steam treatment could be beneficial, other treatments like bloodletting, which is said to remove toxins, may cause potential negative side effects. However, it is the spiritual side of Ayurveda that some have stated is of the most danger.
A successful Panchakarma treatment helps eliminate the accumulated toxins in the body, and yoga brings man to the natural state of tranquility, which is equilibrium.
Ayurveda complements yoga and yoga complements Ayurveda. Ayurveda gives more importance to physical purification and the seat of mind, whereas yoga directly interacts with the mind and its action in the body. We say in yoga, chale vade chalam chittam nischale nischalam bhavet. If the mind is in tranquility, the vada principle in the body will be also in balance.
Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences.
The foundation of all treatment in and healing in Ayurveda is the practice of meditation. In fact, there is little help to be gained in other health and healing methods in Ayurveda without the use of meditation and yoga.
Ayurveda indicates which type of yoga is suitable for each person according to his particular constitution.
Yoga is based on the Hindu worship system. Carol Matriciana, a writer, filmmaker, and expert on yoga, elaborates.
I mean, in fact, in Hindu teaching, it is known that there is no yoga without Hinduism, there is no Hinduism without yoga. The two cannot be separated. It cannot be separated into spiritual exercise, because the very point of yoga, which was designed in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu writings, the Hindu holy scriptures they call it, the Bhagavad Gita, the actual God, the deity in there, designed yoga for the individual to connect to his God consciousness. In Hinduism, they don't believe that you're a sinner, they believe that you're ignorant of your divinity. So the spark within you has to be ignited through yoga discipline.
This concept is one of the main differences between Christianity and many idolatrous religions. Hinduism teaches that man can become as God. In contrast, the foundation of Christianity is that Jesus, who is God, came and became a man to set sinners free from sin. In the false doctrine associated with yoga of man becoming as God, you can hear re-echoing the voice of the serpent in Eden saying, "Ye shall be as gods." But this is not the only connection that yoga has with a serpent.
In fact, another interesting thing is that it's believed that there is a coiled serpent asleep in each person, waiting to be awakened through yoga disciplines. The serpent is known as wisdom, power, knowledge, and if that is brought up through the chakras, which are energy, psychic centers they call them, it's metaphysics, it's not true, it's not scientific, certainly not biblical, but the snake is brought up through self-hypnosis, through going within oneself, through breathing, through waking it up, through disciplines, repetitive, saying the names of the deities again and again through repetitive things called mantras, repetitive prayer, through breathing, pushing it up till eventually it comes to the third eye, the sixth chakra, and then comes into the mind, into consciousness, where you realize that you're divinity and you connect that you are divinity.
This is where we find the connection between yoga and the energy. William Sutton wrote, "In the Oriental and Eastern religions there is found the doctrine of the force. To the Chinese it is known as the qi, to the Korean the yin-yang, to the Indian Swami the force is in the chakras." The life energy is believed to be increased with deep breathing of air through the nose. The exercises of yoga are all designed to direct the flow of prana and release the body's internal energy to create spiritual awareness. Ayurveda teaches that there are 7 centers of concentrated, focused, universal energy in the body, which form the aura. Alexander Hislop sheds light onto where this concept may have originated. In India, the mother of Surya, the sun god, is said to have become pregnant in this way, the same as Semiramis, a beam of sun having entered her womb, consequence of which she brought forth the sun god. Now the knowledge of this widely diffused myth casts light on the meaning of the name Aurora. The name Aurora in the physical sense signifies pregnant with light. Later he states, the mother of the third Bacchus, who is essentially Satan, was Aura. This concept then of being pregnant with light, or auras, stems directly from paganism. But that is not all the links in this chain of deception. Alice Bailey, a known spiritualist writer, shows the connection between the chakras or force centers in astrology. There are, for instance, in our solar system, 7 sacred planets which correspond to the 7 individual force centers in man. The 7 solar systems, of which our solar system is one, and in their turn the 7 energy centers of the one to whom I have referred to in my other books as the one about whom naught can be said. The chakras said to form the aura start at the coccyx and then are said to be located in the sacral, mid-abdomen, heart, throat, behind the eyes, and on the top of the head. The harmony and energy balance of the individual may supposedly be ascertained by observing the aura. When the universal energy is breathed in, it is said to begin at the lowest chakra. It will begin to ascend, and it is said that when it reaches the 7th chakra, one receives immortality. According to Hinduism's belief in reincarnation, this may take several lifetimes. One ex-guru turned Christian stated well, "There can be no Hinduism without yoga, and no yoga without Hinduism." A lady who was interviewed for the documentary Yoga Uncoiled shares with us some of the reasons why.
I don't think we can separate yoga, the practice of yoga, from the spiritual into just a form of exercise, because every form of the yoga movement derives from the serpent. And there's a root behind it. So when a person practices yoga, he's actually indirectly bowing down to the god of the serpent.
One may assume that the yoga positions are just stretching positions, when in fact they are worshipful poses to the Hindu gods. The poses that they so diligently practice in their stretching are named after Hindu gods, and what one is actually doing is calling them. In that worshipful pose, they are bowing and for all intents and purposes worshiping that god. Our God said, "Ye shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." One set of yoga exercises called the Salutation to the Sun is a set of easy movements and postures not held as long as most exercise postures. According to a complete illustrated guide to alternative therapies, these exercises present a spiritual salutation to the sun, the source of all energy for life, and are found in many religious and pagan societies. This is not just an exercise. In the Bible, it was shown to Ezekiel as a great abomination. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshipped the sun toward the east. This scripture shows that to worship the sun is to turn your back on the worship of the true God of the Bible. However, apart from that fact, even spiritualists realize that meditation of this kind can be dangerous. The Kundalini or serpent fire aroused by meditation is not always kind. In her book, Letters on Occult Meditation, Alice Bailey writes, "It is our task now to deal briefly with the dangers that attend the practice of meditation as they manifest in the physical body. These dangers, like so much else in the logoic scheme, assume a threefold nature, attacking 3 departments of the physical body. They show themselves in the brain, in the nervous system, in the sex organs. The man who undertakes the practice of occult meditation literally plays with fire." The warning from the scripture resounds, "Can a man take fire into his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned?" Unfortunately, this has been the result of many who have linked up with yoga or other meditation type practices. The LA Times quotes Herbert Benson, MD, a professor at Harvard. He stated that, in his clinical experience, about 60 to 70% of those who begin a meditation-type practice, primarily for medical reasons, often at the recommendation of their doctor, adopt the teachings, speaking of Buddhism. A footnote in the English Bhagavad Gita actually defines yoga as union with God. The Sanskrit word yoga is a cognate of the English word yoke. The goal of yoga is to yoke the practitioner with Brahman, the ultimate deity of Hinduism. This is nothing but a counterfeit for the yoke of Jesus Christ. Jesus calls today, saying, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." It has been stated that of all the many forms of treatment described in the Ayurvedic text, there is one which holds a preeminent position, the practice of meditation. This is the fertile soil upon which all other forms of therapy take root. Strictly speaking, without meditation, the true healing potential of Ayurvedic medicine cannot be realized. Since the dawn of time, history shows that healing and spirituality have been connected. The priest and the healers were one and the same, and it appears that today nothing has changed. But the great medical manual challenges us to exchange all counterfeit CUREncies and the spiritual deception of Ayurveda for the official currency of heaven. The prescription in Corinthians states, Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? Jesus offers sincere seekers his yoke along with the genuine bill of health, for true science and Bible religion are in perfect harmony. The Creator of heaven and earth promises to give wisdom and the true knowledge of life to those who, like Solomon, will ask it of him. For history records, and God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and largeness of heart even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt. Proving yet again that the true wisdom and the genuine bill of health may be found only in connection with our loving Creator, the greatest physician of all time.